Hello, it's time for Combat Patrol Carnage. We're back with issue 45 and we've got our orcs all base coated, and now it's time to slap some colours on our knob boss. So yeah, we'll follow the paint guide through. Pretty simple, 3 coats of black, picking out all the silver details, picking out the flesh, picking out the cloth, the leathers, any little red details like loincloths, tooth and top knots, picking out the tongues, and then finally all the wraith bone detail. And on this unit we have a new colour to add. We've got Avalanche Sunset on the rocket launcher and the power claw, so a little bit of extra colour to add to our models. Then of course we've got our usual shades with the addition of Reichen Flesh shade on the yellow, and then we've got our basing technique to apply as well. So this is going to be our first pretty much complete paint guide. All what's left to do is highlight, but we don't have the colours yet in our collection to apply to our orcs, but we'll be getting there eventually. So before we hit the table and add these colours to our boss knob, don't forget to of course do all the usual. Like this video if you're enjoying the content, subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already, and drop me a comment down below. Love hearing back from you guys, helps push this channel out and get noticed, and I enjoy our conversations. Finally then, Combat Patrol Carnage is proudly sponsored by warbay.shop, your one-stop supply for all your hobby needs. They stock everything you need from getting started to expanding your forces, adding the detail, and of course you can decorate your hobby and gaming areas with awesome artworks and collectible items as well. Check out the link in the video description or head down to their physical store, and who knows, you might find your next hobby project at a bit of a discount. Right, let's go splat some paint on our orc knob boss. So we're back with issue 45 for our second time. You will notice there might be a bit of noise in the background. The fan is going because again we are having a bit of a warm time in the UK. But another thing that is a bit of a sticking out is our one and only black orc here. So yeah, I've painted the rest of them and I've gone a little bit more colourful than the previous squad. So yeah, I think I'm going to do a few things different on this guy just to help him stand out a little bit more. So we'll take a look through the paint guide, which isn't much different to last time, but it does have the added bonus of the basing details redone. So I'll adjust the camera and we can dive right on in. Right, into our issue we go, past our build guides. So I did mention I had trouble with one orc. It wasn't really this guy. It was actually, I think it was... I don't think it's this guy, because it's this arm that I had a bit of trouble trying to get lining up correctly. It just wouldn't go in very well. But yeah. There was a couple models that were a little bit difficult to get together. This one I think is definitely, it's the arm. The way you try to put it in, it goes a little too wide to the hole. So it might be a good idea to push this arm in first and then push the head over the top of it. Just a little bit of advice for you there. Right, anyway, here we are, how to paint Boyz. Follow this guide to paint your second unit of Boyz. There are a few differences between the two units, and you have learned additional techniques and received additional paints since the first unit. Read the guide in full before you begin, then set up your painting station in a well-lit area and enjoy painting your models. So just like the last squad, we start with a base coat of Abaddon Black, then pick out all our silver details of Lead Belcher. Then it's a matter of picking out the flesh of Orc Flesh. The guide tells us to split the squad in half and do half grey trousers, half grey jackets. I've kind of done a variety of different colours. Then we pick out all our leather details with Catch and Flesh, any wrappings with Rackar Flesh. Finally, red details, so we've got these little tooth icons, the loincloths, we've got the ends on some of the rockets, and we've also got this little tassel on the end of the boss's shooter. Pick those out with Mephiston Red. 3 pink next up for the tongues. Wraith Bone for any skulls and teeth, and finally Avalanche Sunset's a new colour, so we got the cable on the rocket launcher, and there's also the cable on the back of the boss knob's claw. And the final colour is Quark's White, any icons and glyphs. So we are painting the boss glyph different colours, so we're keeping the main gun black instead of the white. And I think we're picking out the square there in white instead of leaving it as it was black. After that then we're on to all our shades. So Coelia green shade over all the flesh, Norn oil over all of our metal details, our grey details, our leather details, our red and white details, as well as the pink tongues. Finally an Aggressor shade for all our teeth, wrappings, and picking out some of the workings of the guns to make them stand out as a little bit different colour. Finally then we do have one extra colour shade to add, which is Rycliffe Flesh shade on our yellow cables. Then it's Relay of Auric Flesh on all the skin, and then finally we start picking out all of that base detail. So we're following our usual texture guide, so paint the base including the stones Mechanica Standard Grey. Apply your texture paint, allow it to dry, shade it with non-oil, and then dry brush with Administratum Grey. And then we have our second unit of Boyz, so I'll bring my paint desk in, select my paints I'm going to use, and we'll get to it. So here's our boss knob on his paint handle, and it's time for us to start picking out the colours. So we'll kick things off as the guide suggests with Lead Belcher. So we'll get all of that silver detail done first. So onto our boss knob, we're going to have the entirety of his power claw. We got his stick bomb here. We got his shooter. His boss pole. We need to paint the entirety of this top section as well, as that's going to be picked out as a brass colour later on. And then finally then onto this guy, we've got a bionic arm here, or bionic arm, as well as his slugger. There we go, with our Lead Belcher dry, our boss knob is ready for his next set of colours. So I'm going to kick things off with Auric Flesh then for all the skin. You're going to need 2 layers of this, but just take it time and apply one at a time. So next up we're going to need Mephiston Red to pick out all our red details. So I've pulled him off his base for the moment because we need to paint his loincloth here. Getting both sides. You got the tassel on the end of his slugger. As well as these teeth markings on his armour. So last time we did the clothes on our boss knob the way the magazine told us, so the black jacket and the grey trousers. This time I'm going to give him blue trousers and we'll go for a grey jacket. So we'll do Macragge blue next. So we'll turn our orc upside down so he can reach his trousers. And we'll give him some nice stylish denim jeans. Next we'll use Mechanica Standard Grey for the jacket. So we've got him back on his base for this stage, as we're going to get that rock and the base as well. And then we'll get that jacket. There we go, our orc boss knob is starting to look pretty colourful. So next up we're going to do all the leather details, so for that we're going to want good old Catagen flesh. So we're going to be using a small layer brush for this, as it's fine detail. So we've got the strap around his leg, as well as the pouch and belt on his waist. Then of course we've got all these straps and the holster of his shooter on his backpack. So there we go, jacket, leather and trousers done. Moving on next, we want a tiny bit of Screamer Pink to get his tongue. So I'll just take this straight from the pot and into his mouth, like so. So now we're ready to move on to our lighter colours. I've got some fresh water. We'll kick things off with Wraith Bone for all of our bone and teeth details. So we got a couple of skulls on this guy to pick out. We got the one hanging down off his waist. And of course we got the previous boss knob, or one of the boys under his command that he decided he didn't like. And of course we've got all these teeth. Don't forget to get the ones right behind the jaw here as well. Next we want a little bit of Corax white, and this is for any of the glyphs around the model, as well as the little square on the gun glyph on his back totem. So first and foremost we've got his belt glyph there, the fist, showing that he is a boss, even if he is just a lowly boss knob. We've got the iron teeth around his jaw here to pick out. So we've got that little square just to pick out here. Now flip him around, he's also got 3 little triangles on his slugger. And go in with the second layer now that everything's drying. One good thing about the heat, your paint does dry quick at least. Plus I have got the cool fan blowing, that's an added level of drying ability. There we go. So 2 more colours to do before we do a tidy up. So we've got Rakoff flesh, and on this guy it's just for the wrappings around his shooter. So just a small brush full of paint. We've got the wrappings here around the handle of his shooter. And finally, before we go to Avalon Black and tidy up all of the remaining black areas, we've got Avalon Sunset here, and this is going to be for the cable coming out the back of his power claw. And so we'll just pick out that cable. Don't forget to also do the cable on your rocket launcher boy. Getting this prepared for hazard stripes, which we'll be painting in a later issue, no doubt. And finally, we're going to get Avalon Black, and we'll do a quick tidy up on this guy. So we've got gun casing details, we've got the casings on the power claw, and we've got some armor panels that need to be repainted black. So I'll do that off camera quick, and we can come back in ready for the wash stage. So before we do anything else, I'm going to get the texture paint down so it's dry and ready for when we do our shade. I'm going to leave them off the paint handle because it messes with the base a bit, it warps the base, and I don't want the rock coming off, as I've not long glued it. But let's apply Astro Granite around the model's base, and it'll be ready for all of those shades in a sec. Okay, we're on to our shade stage, and our first one is going to make that skin look a little bit more greener, so we need Coelia green shade. Just get some on our brush, and we'll apply this to his head, working into all the nooks and crannies of his facial features, then over his muscles, around his neck, of course don't forget to get his arms. So with all the skin shaded, we can move over to the majority of our model, which is Nuln Oil. So we've got the base detail, we've got all the metals, we've got the blues and the greys, and we've got the whites and reds, of course, to pick out as well. So nice big puddle on my palette to draw from, and we'll slap this all over our orc where it's needed, including of course the base. There we go, the Nuln Oil has dried and he's starting to look pretty done. Next up there, we want a tiny bit of Agrax Earthshade. This is to shade those skulls and of course differentiate some of that metal work. So we're going to pick out the icon on the top of his banner, and there's a little bit of mechanical gubbins on the side of his power claw as well. So just want a small amount on our brush. So coat this with a nice coat of Agrax Earthshade to give it that brassy appearance. And we got this little control doodad here, we're going to pick that out. And of course we've got our skulls, the top of the grenade, we've got the wrappings here on his shooter. And finally, we just want a small amount of Rikon Flesh Shade, and we use our small layer brushes only on a small area. And pick out the cable. It's actually, by looking at it, might do with wanting a new layer of yellow on. There we go, all our shades done. We now just have a few little tidy up bits to do. So our first colour to go to is Orc Flesh. I've already got some prepared on my palette. And for this, we're going to be picking out all the raised areas of Orc Flesh. So his muscles. course these facial features as well. So we got the eyebrows, nose, top lip we can reach as well. And cheekbones. There we go, all our skin relayered, and he's starting to look rather green and gruesome, if it'll focus. No. Okay, anyway, moving on. Administration grey is our next colour, and as you can see, I've got my tissue and my dry brush ready, as we've just got to dry brush the top of the base. So a little bit on our brush, work it into the bristles, and onto our model. And finally, with him off of his paint handle, we can bring in Abaddon Black to paint the rim of the base. I'm just going to use it straight from the pot so we can get one nice thick layer over base, as we don't have much to cover over, as luckily the base rims are black anyway. And there we go, our brand new boss knob is ready to join the rest of these boys. Before we finish out, there's one thing I wanted to point out, which I have mentioned on social medias. But if we look at our boss knob here, we can see that he has already been highlighted. So we can see they've highlighted the leather, the metal, and his boots, which have been highlighted with Calgar blue. So yeah, someone made a boo-boo when taking photos. I guess they got too enthralled in painting this guy and accidentally took him a stage too far. So safe to say that we'll be doing some highlights to our orcs very soon. One thing I have noticed also is there's a slight little bit of orange on the edge of the teeth here on the armor panels, so maybe swig orange is used. Doesn't really come through much on the tassel and loincloth. That might be done in a different colour just to help differentiate different materials when we get new paints in future issues. Yeah, a little bit of fun fact for you there. Right, there we go. That's it for this video. All that's left to do then is, of course, next issue, video even, name these guys and we get to try them out in a good old scrap. So, while waiting for this guy to dry, I was rolling on names randomly on the table, and I did pull out a good one in the end. So we'll be using that. But that'll be for next video. All that's left then to do is to say thank you all very much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time for some more Combat Patrol Carnage. Goodbye.